Thank you for joining us for our weekly Cannabis Connection webinar series. I am your host, Jamie Cooper, founder and CEO of Cannabis Connection. I am live right now with Aaron with the National Cannabis Security Services. Aaron, it's so great to see you.
Thanks for having me again, Jamie. Pleasure as always.
Pleasure as always. And you are living on the west side of Michigan now.
Yep.
Well, you were
West
already
Coast.
on the west.
Yeah.
But now in Grand Rapids, and it's so great to have you a little bit closer.
Yeah, and there's a lot of work to do here in Grand Rapids, so it's
Yes,
good to
there is.
be right here in action.
Right. Aaron and I were talking a few minutes ago, but Grand Rapids today announced that they are likely putting a moratorium on the application process and extending it up to 6 months from now. So that would put it into May. That's going to hurt a lot of folks that have already purchased property and are moving forward.
Yeah, whatever we can do to help educate the people and move the process forward.
Right. So if you're available tonight, make sure you join us with the Grand Rapids. They're meeting at 6:30 tonight. I think the location is a little bit, it's not at the city hall like it traditionally is. It's one of their kind of meetings that they go out into the different wards. So it should be an interesting meeting. I know a lot of us are showing up and hoping to see some sort of change in a positive way. So. Well, Aaron, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in National Cannabis Security Services.
Okay, so those of you that had tuned in last time, well, you know my background, but I'm a retired Marine, or once Marine, always Marine. I served as an infantry squad leader for 6 years. During that time period, I worked in the enlisted side, bringing the new generation of the Marine Corps in, and then eventually went over to the officer side where I got to deal with bringing leaders of Marines in. And I kind of finished my career while I was still in school at Western Michigan. And I did some military funeral honors. In the private sector, I studied integrated supply chain management at Western Michigan University, which is a top-notch school for the business. And then I have about 3 years of international logistics experience. And then other than the military, and then bouncing at bars in college, I've got a majority of my security experience through Ted Daniels and National Cannabis Security Services. To give you guys a little detail about National Cannabis Security Services, we have years of experience in providing cutting-edge security solutions from security plans and consultation. That includes things like monthly security briefs, kind of bringing all your staff together and evaluating the overall security of your facility. We'll do compliance audits to try to come in and make sure you guys are outfitted the best for those inspections that come through from the regulatory bodies. We offer guarding and patrol services, system integration, building fortification. We do training programs for things like just internal security, active shooters, just general safety tips. And then we're currently working on a license for secure transport. Where we have a cash movement operation out on the East Coast that Ted is out there running quite efficiently. And then we are partnered with some of the industry leaders in security integration, like 710 Security. I actually just got to go spend the last week down in Ohio with 710, assisting them and kind of learning the full, the ground level integration and what it takes to actually install a top-notch security system. And that facility was very nice. It was a Nexus facility. It was a Tier 1 facility out of Ohio. They're going to be producing some top-notch buds, and they're also going to be having a very secure facility. It's great to see that. So today, I just want to and how security plays a role in that. We see in all the other states like Colorado, especially the regulations changing, every 6 to 9 months, and it's a continuous cesspool of new rules. And so when it comes to your security portion of your facility, how can we do it right the first time and make sure that it lasts through all of the changes? And then the second learning objective is just day-to-day operational security, how integrating your guards and your staff with the regulations that the state put out. So the importance of a secure industry, just wanted to hit this subject real quick. Integrating security protocols in everyday business operations, it ensures safety and compliance of your facilities, operation, and your staff. A secure operation includes public safety and allows law enforcement to focus on real issues. And promoting a safe and secure industry aids in the battle of changing the stigma around cannabis. Like what we're going to do today, Jamie, with going and talking to Grand Rapids. Yet again, in any other municipality I go into, the biggest concern that they have isn't necessarily the product, but it's just how it's going to affect their community. And so, ensuring right off, even in the application process, letting these municipality leaders know and your community know that you're running a safe and secure facility is only going to aid in destroying the stigma and opening up the hearts and minds to the local community.
Right. And I agree. It's definitely one of the biggest concerns they have. And I think it's just your job. You do a great job of helping them understand it's not as scary as that, everybody puts it into their head. And with, secure, and you guys work a lot with the police departments that are in these municipalities. I mean, it ends up being this open conversation where everybody ends up having these facilities and are happy because you work together.
Yeah, we do work hand in hand with law enforcement. Ted is a retired police officer. My grandfather was the police chief of Michigan State University, and through him, I've had many conversations with some major law enforcement leaders here in Michigan, and it's really just addressing those issues and making them understand that these operators coming in don't want backdoor activity just as much as everyone else. And so they really just need to figure out what law enforcement's concern is, and kind of educate them on the process of the cannabis industry and just how we can address those issues and work together. Some people don't want to work with cops, and I get it from the history of the cannabis industry, but now that we're in a commercial space and moving forward with it on a national level, it's important that we work with these governing bodies to ensure the longevity of the industry and make sure it happens quickly.
Right, and we're commonly talking about regulate marijuana like alcohol, but let's be honest, we're regulated much more than alcohol. I mean, like some of the security protocols that are in place for cannabis businesses, I mean, you don't see that in the alcohol industry.
Well, it's hard to treat cannabis like alcohol on a medicinal level. You've got to treat it like pharmaceuticals, and that's kind of how you see Michigan operating. Just all the rules and regulations we're putting around it. It is right now for the medical marijuana program. We might see less stringent rules when it goes recreational, because at that point, at least in Michigan's legislation, every individual that is capable for adult use can have 12 plants. So that kind of takes it away from being centralized and having a lot more control. And it's just a different environment, recreational, adult use, and medicinal. So right now, the legislation as far as what's required for security isn't that strict in Michigan. It breaks down. Some municipalities do require physical guards, but it's not written in the state laws that guards are required. But it's common sense, just depending on the type of the facility. Dispensaries have a lot different security needs than a place that has 5 or 10 stacked C licenses that have tons of readily usable products. And it's a lot different than alcohol. You don't hear very often, other than teenagers breaking into a place and stealing some alcohol, but marijuana is a very easy, it's a liquid product. You can turn that around on the street for money. You can use it yourself. There's so many benefits that making a grab is a lot more appealing than alcohol. So it's kind of hard to compare the two, but from a recreational standpoint, I do agree with that.
Right. Thank you, Aaron.
So I want to talk a little bit about the investigations and inspections leading off the future-proof compliance portion. The state is going to be coming through and doing strict inspections of every facility before they're even able to open, and then periodically throughout the operation of the business. In Rule 9, they talk about the pre-licensure investigation and proposed marijuana facilities And they talk right there specifically the safety, security, and integrity. And you see that mentioned a lot throughout the legislation. But the department, through its investigators, agents, auditors, or state police, which is very broad, they haven't really specified how exactly these inspections are going to be conducted. But they shall conduct inspections and examinations of applicants' proposed marijuana facilities. From a security standpoint, really the big thing they're going to be looking at is, one, does the municipality require physical guards? And if so, how do you plan on implementing those? And then they're really looking for the state required security protocol with RFID tracking, camera systems, alarms, and all of that. I thought this was very interesting. In Rule 16, I mentioned this last webinar, but the department at any time without a warrant or without notice to the licensee enter the proposed marijuana facility or marijuana facilities, offices, or other places of business of the licensee. When it comes to security systems and security guards, you don't have room for any deficiencies. Every square inch of your facility that has marijuana in it needs to be under observation at all times. If something were to go wrong, the police were to come in at an unexpected time, and you guys haven't accounted for any sort of loss, or you haven't reported any sort of criminal activity in a timely manner, it could be very detrimental, and you could even eventually end up losing your license because of something like that.
Definitely don't want that to happen. There's a lot on the line.
Yes. I mean, there's some people, I forget the name of the company. I was talking with Jenny Geronimo with ICS Consulting about a company that lost, I think, like 26 licenses over just not being able to stay in compliance.
Right.
It was on many different levels, but I know one of them was camera issue. They didn't have a tamper-proof camera system, and so an employee kept going through and unplugging the camera that was watching the vault, and something came up missing. And when they came to go do the investigation, that camera that was fixed twice for the same issue before was off during that time period, which caused a discrepancy in compliance.
Ouch. And they lost a lot.
Yeah, and that's a business owner losing something just because of one individual, and because they didn't invest early and get the right camera system that could avoid that. Tamper-proof, or something that would give alarms when it's been tampered with.
Right.
All right. So in the legislation, they talk about marijuana facility plan. I just want to kind of go over what that includes. The marijuana facility plan should include, but not limited to, the following. Obviously, the type of proposed marijuana facility, if it's a grow or cultivation facility, a dispensary, or provisioning center, processing center, the location and the description of the municipality. In that description of the municipality, they need to be in mind that if it requires physical guards or not. So, like I said, some municipalities don't require it. Some do put it right in their legislation, like Mount Morris, for example. They require during 24/7, doesn't matter, 365, you have to have an armed guard. They put it specifically armed in their legislation. You need a diagram, all the architectural plans to include the doorways, common and limited access areas, and things of that nature. Means of egress to include delivery and transfer points, the building structure information, and construction details. I hit on this hard because when it comes to installing security systems and implementing your guard staff, having all these in details is very important. Knowing where you're storing your IT information and your DVR, knowing where your security room is, and knowing who's going to have access to all of these rooms. From the beginning, from the very start of the application process. All right, and then Rule 27, the state hits on the proposed security plan, the required plan in the video surveillance system. A proper security plan encompasses the protection of the facilities, the physical assets, the products, currency, and electronic information like IT, and your camera systems. It should cover things like your emergency action plans as well. And that's all I got on that one. So to hit on the future-proof compliance again, this is 710 security. Like I said, I was just down there in Ohio. This picture on the right, I like to show. So we were only laying out 4 greenhouses, and that is about half of the wiring to all the different camera systems required to avoid any deficiencies, to make sure every single square inch of that is covered, make sure the doors are covered. Some of the wires in there for access control. But we laid about 20 miles of wire at this one facility, and it can, it seems big, but it's needed to ensure the longevity of your operation.
Yeah, and I would hate like for one of those to fail and then have to go and fix it.
Right.
But that's,
Right.
I'm sure that's what you guys are really, great at doing. By the way, I wanted to ask you, how does Ohio's security compare to Michigan's with what you saw down in Ohio?
I can't speak knowledgeably on the legislation. A good person to ask on that would be David Beckett with 710. He has a couple of projects and installs down in the Ohio region. But I know that I spoke with the director of security for that specific company, and he's a former military man. He was a retired 20 years first sergeant from the Army Rangers. And that's a prime example of, some of the things we'll be talking about is finding not just security staff, but highly qualified security staff. But Ohio's pretty stringent. It's a pretty conservative state for the most part. And so I'm fairly certain that they require guards at all their facilities at all time, but I can't speak knowledgeably on that.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron.
But as far as future-proof compliance, investing in your cameras, your alarms, and your access control early on is important. Because as you can see, like I said, laying all that wire is one thing, and then installing a camera is another, but doing it properly and saving you the time and money. Because if one wire is pinched, the amount of time and money it takes to go through and pull that wire back out and set it back up again, it's pricey. It's pricey, even for the most basic system. So when it comes to installing cameras, using IP network cameras, that should be required, I believe, in the state of Michigan. But having IP network cameras that have live HD video, they're tamper-proof, and like I said, provide that failure notification are very important. But you need other things like motion detectors, intrusion alarms, and door locks, and access control. Regardless of what route you want to go with your integrated systems, it's very important to invest early and to find a company that can fill all your needs.
Right.
So integrating your guards with these systems and within your business is very crucial. You should set up a succession of command within your internal staff. You should have an individual who fills the bill of director of security, overseeing the facility's overall security and safety. You should have some security supervisors, and then a third-party night and day guard person like NCSS or 710 Security, multiple other companies. Everyone thinks they're the best in security. There's no one way to do security. Situation dictates across the board. But having an open line of communication and a clear chain of command for things like emergencies, incidents of notable interest, situations requiring supervisor guidance, or situations of uncertainty, all should be pushed up the chain of command, and having a guard on there provides another set of eyes and a deterrent, and making sure that they know your internal protocols are very important. So when integrating your guards, there's many places that they can be used throughout your facility. Dispensaries vary from a grow and a processor. In the dispensary, you don't want to necessarily walk in and see an armed individual, but seeing a friendly face that can act as, like I said, an extra pair of eyes and a deterrent. And it's still a part of your business, and still friendly, welcomes them, points them in the direction they need to go. But it's very important to have trained security staff, highly trained security staff, because in the event that an incident does happen, you want someone to be able that can react in a professional manner. I think that's all I have on that one. Do you have any questions so far, Jamie?
I do not.
Okay.
I'm following along with you. You're the expert in this. I don't know crap about security, so.
Yeah. And
But
like I,
no, I understand that, like, I mean, I can understand that there are certain municipalities like Detroit area or Flint area, those with a higher crime rate, where this is, I mean, like Mount Morris, you said they require that. And so it's ensuring the safety.
yeah,
And one thing that I've always been told too is when you have one thing that I love is that story that Ted always uses, talking about if you're like if a woman's walking down the street and she's not very confident, she might get messed with. But when there's a lady walking down the street and she looks like she means business and she has that confidence, and like nobody's gonna mess with her. And it's kind of like that with security, and seeing those security features on the outside, seeing the guards on the outside, ensures that they don't get messed with.
right. Yeah. Like I said, just it acts as more of a deterrent than anything. We hope that that this industry doesn't have a lot of crime, and we see that most of criminal activity within the cannabis industry is actually from within, and that's very hard to prevent. But having these, like you said, having cameras, having guards, they just act and let people know that this industry is being taken serious, and there's strict security measures around it.
Right, for sure.
So security, again, just your day-to-day operations should always be very security focused. Everything from your SOPs to doing risk assessments to of where your facility is being placed. Like we said, places like Detroit or Flint or other cities that have a higher criminal activity, you need to do appropriate risk assessment to make sure you are taking the proper steps to securing your facility. But doing things like making sure your SOPs are all security focused, the way your staff checks in the morning, the way your staff takes care of its inventory and cash is all security focused, and it's all clearly written in your SOPs. The importance of doing this, improves business processes. When it's safe and secure and operating the same way every time, it's going to be a smooth operation. Provide the necessary structure for employees' success and operational compliance. Provide a good environment for your employees to work in. When they're happy, they're not going to be disgruntled, and there won't be those internal conflicts that could lead to some security hazards. Maintain an inventory tracking and protocol with cash as well, and regular training and evaluations. Having a third-party security staff come in and evaluate every inch of your facility, from your SOPs to your camera placement, making sure those cameras are on and recording, and have maintained that information during the appropriate time.
And how often would you recommend these compliant evaluations and these evaluations?
I would do it on a monthly basis. Like I said at the beginning, doing monthly security briefs. The cool part of working with a company like NCSS is we're not just building client lists, we're building relationships. Some of the places that we have done security plans for, we have just signed on as their security directors. They have an internal structure set up to handle security needs, but when it comes to answering the big questions, they come to NCSS.
Makes sense.
And then the final portion, of securing your industry or your facility is just your hiring process, both for your guards, if you have internal guards, or even for third-party guards. You don't want just some stranger coming in, so make sure you properly vet all the people that will have access to your facility. Doing background checks, reference checks. Unfortunately, we're all having enough time in this industry with the delay in licensing to really go through and identify our people. So, use this time to double check and triple check, because like I said, the individual that was tampering with the camera at the end of the day was part of the theft that went in with that particular business, and eventually led to them losing 26 licenses. So it's very important to make sure the people that you are bringing in have your facilities security at mind, just like you do.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to hire the wrong people and put that license up to up for risk, you know? So.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and at the end of the day, a lot of money being put into these things. So you just want to make sure it's safe and it's secure. Every portion, from the plants to your SOPs to your cash. I mean, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, Aaron, thank you so much for your time and for your expertise today.
No problem. And if anyone has any questions moving forward, you feel free to reach out to me. We have a vast network of individuals that have many years in security. I'm running the Michigan operations, but if we got people coming from out of state or out of state questions as well, I'll certainly point them in the right direction.
Right, yeah, and there's Aaron's contact information there on the screen, his cell phone and his email address. So if you need to get a hold of Aaron, there you go. And, I can introduce you to Aaron as well. But Aaron, thank you so much for your time today. If those of you that are on, if you have any questions, just comment. Really quick, I want to always give a shout out to my founding members, one of them being National Cannabis Security Services. By the way, our next networking event is September 27th. Aaron will be hosting the one in Detroit. And then we will also be having one in Grand Rapids. They're 6 to 9 o'clock. And we are looking at hosting our Lansing event and another Detroit event in mid-October. So, more networking opportunities coming up as usual. And Aaron, thank you so much for your time and willingness to be hosting that Detroit event.
It's always a good time. I encourage everyone to come out, even if it's just making one good relationship. It's all worth it.
Right. Right. I mean, right now it's all about connecting, and it's always about who you know. And, knowing people will help connect you to the right resources that you need. And networking definitely needed to happen in Michigan. We need more opportunities to network and try to find those that we want to be a part of our teams or that we want to do business with. Speaking of, my founding members, there's our accounting and bookkeeping member is LC Solutions Michigan. Compliance is ICS Consulting, which you were talking about Jenny earlier. She is out of Colorado and has a lot of compliancy experience under her belt. And then bricks and mortar insurance. We also have Vista Green Group. I see a little error on the screen there, which I will go fix. For licensing and operations. And then for marketing and advertising, COLA Marketing, municipality approval and lobbying would be Canna Media Works, a company owned by me. I do a lot of lobbying work across the state of Michigan. Packaging and design, Kush Design Studio. Public relations, Ingrid Marketing. And then security, National Cannabis Security Services, you guys. And then staffing and payroll, THC 123. That company's owned by Anthony Sabatella, who you know really well. And so... But Aaron, thank you so much for your time, and we will be having you on again soon, I'm sure, over the next couple of months, talking more security. And if you want to meet Aaron, again, go to his Detroit event, September 27th. Aaron, until then, have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yes, I'll see you tonight at Grand Rapids meeting, Jamie.
Okay, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Right.
Bye.